Okay, I think I might be doing this right. Hi, everyone. Stand by while I make sure we're doing this correctly. So I have muted myself on my YouTube page. I have Nina at the ready. Now all I need is somebody to let me know that that you can hear me and see me before I get going. I know we've got some people out there. If you could put something in the chat to make sure that I've got my settings correct and we're going, that would be lovely. Well, there we go. Hi, Scylla. Scylla's watching us. Priscilla, can you hear us and see us? Excellent. All right. I did it right. All right. Well, hello, everyone. This is Candace Craw Goldman, and it is the 10th of December, 2019, 10 a.m. Central Time where I am. And I actually had a BQH session scheduled for right now, and the client had a little mix-up, had to postpone, and suddenly I had a little bit of free time. And I was on our forum community talking to some BQH practitioners. And Nina Morocco, my guest today, BQH practitioner, brought up a question that was so interesting to me. I said, Nina, how about join me on a impromptu YouTube and let's talk about it. So welcome, Nina. How are you and Marnie doing?
We're doing really good. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so happy to be chatting with you. Nina is such a wonderful member of our Beyond Quantum Healing community. She brings a lot of engagement. She shares a lot in our community, asks great questions, creates wonderful conversations. And so we're bringing some of that live to you all today. And her question this morning was just so much fun, and it was so relevant for so many of us in life in general, but I thought we'd bring it to you all today. But first, I just want to say hi to all of you people who are jumping on. Hi, Laura and Rhonda and Candy and Kenny. Kenny, if you didn't jump on my live, I would think something might be wrong, which is how wonderful you are to always pop in. Love you so much. And of course, we have Priscilla Lewis, our wonderful Beyond Quantum healer and blog editor, is joining us today. And so for all of you who are listening live right now, thanks so much for jumping on. And for those of you who are going to watch later, thanks too. But back to the subject at hand, intentions. So Nina brought this to our community. It was very interesting. She basically said that some people in conversation, some of her clients, had trouble even understanding what an intention was, right, Nina? Why don't you flesh out this this whole idea a little bit for our listeners?
I have something keeps propping up when I have sessions with people and I'm talking to people. Sometimes I get really kind of blank expressions when we're going over the intention part. And of course, in the pre-talk and then when we're getting to know each other, I always say, you know, you need to get ready your questions and your intention. And we always get the questions, but not often do we get the intention. But some do. Some are really, you know, forthcoming with everything. But yes, sometimes when we're at that moment where we're just about to do the water alchemy and, you know, we need to set the intention, I just kind of get kind of blank expressions. And I think as well, sometimes people mix up intentions with affirmations. I think that's something that happens. So yeah, it's quite interesting that people just aren't really very realizing what, you know, what it is and why it's so important.
Oh gosh, it is so important. So speaking as a practitioner, I know that one of, you know, I ask usually two things when somebody contacts me for a session. I usually say, how did you find me? Because I find that interesting. Sometimes it's personal referrals, all kinds of ways, YouTube's like this. And the second question I ask, you know, what's the main reason you want to have a session? Now that's a way to start looking for the intention, right? But if we back up away even from BQH sessions or, healing sessions or consulting or intuitive sessions at all, intention is such a big topic because, I was thinking about it as I was setting up this session, this show today, as we we're getting ready. Almost everything we do has an intention. When you stand up from a chair and start walking somewhere, you're intending to go somewhere. When you pull a dish out of the cabinet and, you're intending to eat or drink something, right? I mean, everything we do as humans is based on and wraps around this idea of intention. And so it's really important to understand what it is. I took a quick look at the dictionary definition, and it's basically, the purpose, what's the purpose? And also what's the attitude that you have going into this? So there's all sorts of intentions that people can bring to sessions. But again, even in the bigger way of looking at this idea of intention, my thought about my intention of having this show today was to talk about how significant intentions are in our lives. Absolutely everything we do has an intention component in it somewhere. And if you don't really understand that, and you might not understand that in yourself, it can affect so much of your lives, can it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. It's the driving force behind every action that we take is having an intention, we want an outcome to the things that we're doing, even an outcome to your day, that's setting an intention. And of course, with the full moon coming up as well, people often set intentions at full moon. And I had one client who had a picture, like a really big jug, and it had all of her intentions for full moon written on this picture. And I'm like, okay, so you get it. it's brilliant. So yeah, it's a really, really important thing for us to have. It's like laying out where we want to go and what we want to get from what it is that we're doing. It's
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I really just love this topic so much because in my Get Ready videos that I have on the quantumhealers.com website for people who are getting ready for sessions or practitioners who want to think about how to prepare their clients. And this is for any session, whether or not you're part of the BQH or a larger quantumhealers.com community or not, these Get Ready videos can really help. And one of the things that I'd like to point out is that the intention of the client and the practitioner really ought to match. These intentions should be the same. And this might confuse some listeners or some people who, haven't gone through the training kind of processes for being a practitioner of any kind. But you would be surprised at the different kinds of intentions a practitioner has for a session, wouldn't you say, Nina? And did that surprise you when you got into this work? Because, as we get to learn more people, and you may have a different intention depending on what client it is, right?
Yeah, because you get to know a client, I mean, at least a little bit before a session. You want to get to know them as much as possible. But yeah, my mind's just gone blank. Can you say that again?
That's all right. I'll give an example. I was actually thinking about Dolores Cannon, and Dolores Cannon is never far from my thoughts. I feel her with me all the time. So let's just start with her. What was Dolores Cannon's intention for doing this work? She had a lot of different intentions, and I would say it would depend on which client, but there were some overriding intentions, for example. So an overriding intention, I think, for her to even get into this work was her idea of she was so interested in this idea of lost history and being a reporter. This was an overriding theme of her work. She really loved that. She called herself a reporter, and she wanted to share the information that she discovered, right? So that was an intention. Having sessions morphed and had different things go on with them. You know, she started this work as a hobby with her husband, helping out people, right? And then that kind of moved into the reporter thing. And then after many years of doing this work, it actually moved into the healing component. And then that moved into the teaching component. But look, the woman published 21, I think, books. So when Dolores Cannon went into a session, and I know her, I knew her, I know her heart. She cared about that person who walked in. She absolutely cared. That, I would dare say, that was the number one absolute intention, bar none. But there's a secondary intention in there. Can I get this session in one of my books? And if she wasn't having that intention, number one, it wasn't going to happen. And number two, she was always looking for that, right? And she wouldn't have been able to write so many books if she didn't have that intention going in. So there's all kinds of reasons. There's a lot of other practitioners who might have an overriding intention of, I don't know, that may be their number one intention. And because this is a heart-based modality, it is my hope as the creator and teacher of BQH that the number one thing that that you're there is for that client. And the other things should be secondary. So there's layers of intention, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly know that when you get to know a client, you can see kind of, you can see the surface of what they're saying to you, but when you're a little bit more intuitive, you can see what's underneath all that as well. And you can really sort of pinpoint what it is that they need and what tools you have as a practitioner to be able to bring that out in them. And I think that's a really interesting aspect of it as well.
You're giving me goosebumps. You really are giving me goosebumps, because Nina, haven't you found that even those who state a very clear intention, sometimes after a while, I mean, going into even the interview portion, after a while, you kind of go, well, that's not really your main intention anyway, right? I mean, they may say something and they may bring up a situation or whatever, something they want to resolve, but maybe the larger intention is validation, or the larger intention is love, or the larger intention could be, all kinds of things. And it's during that discussion in that interview before a session that either the initial intention is deepened, or you find out the real intention that they are there. And I have to say, as somebody who's been doing this for 11 and a half years, every once in a while, no matter if you go through all of that, it's not till you are in the session where you go, oh, now I know the real reason that you are here. And it's not because they are intending to hide anything. This is a discovery process, isn't it?
Yeah. And you can see why you've been lined up to work together as well, because sometimes as a session unfolds, you find out more and more that the client has had similar issues and similar things happen in their lives to you as a practitioner. And I find a lot of the time people wanting to be nurtured is a thing that runs through a lot of sessions that I do. That kind of nurturing edge of just being mummied is a theme that kind of runs through a lot of sessions that I've been involved in. So
I love that so much. And of course, look at you and your life and how you got into this work and what you do with most of your day. You mother your beautiful young daughter, Marnie. You've had such giant, spectacular, amazing experiences going through all of that. Your energy field is filled with these stories and that love and that care from your heart, and people can feel that. No wonder they're coming to you for that. Right?
Thank you. I have it, and it kind of emanates in what I'm trying to put across is that the experiences that have happened in my life have really sort of spurred me on to be able to give a piece of what I've learned over to the clients that I work with. So
Perfect. one of the things I wanted to touch upon, because I think about this stuff all the time, is I watch, and this is, we're humanity. We are connected. We are absolutely connected. I mean, we're not quite like a beehive or a flock of birds, but you really have to think of us like that. And when we think about this great awakening, that's what this is. It's all of us on the planet, right? Yeah. And as we're going through this, there are, you've heard about things like uh, foundations and structures crumbling. But one of the other key components of all of this awakening, in my thinking, is that this intention component of every aspect of our lives is becoming more and more clear, not only to individuals, to themselves, but to others. And even if you yourself don't really know what your intention is, maybe you're in the process of discovering it, and this is okay. This is the way why we're here and what we're working on. But others can feel that in the energy, and yeah. They may be a match, they may be a mismatch. A lot of people may say they have one kind of intention and really give off the energy of a completely different kind of intention. And we can see that out there in society, in the world in general, in our politics, in our religion, in our culture, in our educational system. There's a lot of that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. There's something being said, and there's a whole underlying intention behind it. But the people, the ones that are awake and awakening, are the ones that are really able to see what the true intentions are. I think a lot of the time when you're watching the things that are going on in the world, if you're anything like me, it's kind of you kind of go, all right, okay, so that's attached to that. All right, yeah, okay, I hear the story, but I know there's something else going on.
So, that's right. Less and less we're going to be able to be fooled in this way. Yeah. One big way that I started really seeing this is in the educational system, right? But this goes across the board. But even think about it. Even think about the little desks that we put. Not all classrooms are like this, but certainly from my history and my perspective, and even my children's, we get these children used to being in a room with very boxy, typically walls, where they sit in a little place and they're just practicing getting ready to be cubicle workers, right? To follow instructions, to do what the person who's standing at the front of the room is telling them to do, to not make too much fuss, trouble, or color outside the lines. And that seems like, well, this is, some of us are like, well, this is an orderly way that society is supposed to work, and that we would have mass whatever chaos if we didn't do things this way. Well, maybe, and maybe not. Maybe there's some other ways to do things. Maybe there's more horizontal, more egalitarian ways of discovery and learning as human beings. And there's some of us who are really passionate about helping some of human potential break out of those cubicles and square walls and very straight lines. But there's a lot of pushback to that. And it's not always because the people who are pushing back are evil or whatever. It's just that this is the way they're taught, and humans sure like to be comfortable and have things not change. Wouldn't you say, Nina?
I would say so. Yeah, people like to be in their ticky boxes and their comfortable lives. Well, some do, but some are itching to jump out and expand and grow and learn and create new things. And yeah, I certainly agree with what you were saying about schools and the education system. Children are from such a young age molded and they're trying to fit a child into something that isn't necessarily natural to the essence of who they truly are. And I think that's what causes a lot of pain in a lot of people as well, and they don't quite understand it. And I think that's a very relevant point.
So looking over at the chat, we have Michael Graves asking a couple questions I'm going to go ahead and look at and answer. So Michael brings us back to Dolores, and he asks, so Dolores can have an ongoing or innate intention. You know, we as practitioners, did Dolores do that? Sure, you can. You know, I think like an overriding intention I have is this concept. It's becoming more and more integral to my life. And that's this concept of freedom. It's just more and more a part of what I'm interested in. And my interest is helping, you know, a freedom for the individual to express themselves, to grow, freedom for larger connections to happen. Of course, always with the caveat that it is not hurtful to others, right? And I think we're moving into that realm. You know, other people have intentions of, they really, you know, and this is going to sound sort of negative, but it makes the contrasting point. You know, some people just really want to be famous. We're in this society where the ideal seems to be, I want to, you know, reality TV stars, and, you know, they think that this is where they're going to get the most amount of love and attention, is by being famous. And well, there, you know, that's a whole nother story. But I would say, and I have seen, and it's pretty rare, I have to say it's pretty rare, but in my about dozen years of doing this kind of quantum healing work, there are certainly players that I can call to memory whose main idea was, I just want to be another person, kind of like Dolores. And why? Because she was so well known and so loved. And that, you know, so here's these intentions, right? So their intention, you know, maybe the egoic one is to be famous, but the underlying intention is, I need to feel important and loved, right? That's really the intention after that. But in the individual session that a practitioner like that might have with a client, you sure don't want those up here above what's going on with you. Yeah. And clients, more than they might realize, can sometimes feel and react to the intention of a practitioner if the intention doesn't match the reason that they're there. And that is why BQH is different. And we focus on that before we ever get going.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we take just a few minutes now, because we only have a few minutes left in my schedule of my day, because I've already made other plans. And this is completely off topic, but I'm going to go pick up a friend who's training a wild Mustang. Yes, I am. Yeah, I hope to take some video of that, our adventures. But anyway, that I'm going to go get a wild Mustang in training and bring it back to the farm, since my session was canceled. Yeah, that's why I wanted to do this hurry up. But anyway, I'm so excited. Leaving that aside right now, let's talk about, what are some typical intentions for those who kind of understand their intentions of having a session that people have when they've come to you for sessions, Nina?
People want to step into the best version of themselves. They want to be aligned with what it is that they're here to do, their purpose, their reason for being, they want to understand their relationships and the people that are in their lives. They want to understand those relationships and maybe why they're challenging or something like that. They want to understand why they're experiencing maybe an illness or something like that. Sometimes they just want to really just explore and just find out what else is out there. Yeah, sometimes they have very, very specific things that they really want to know about that particular thing, or they've had a very off the wall kind of experience and they need sort of clarity on it, or yeah, there's so many different things. And I always find it amazing when I read over the intention again after the session, because it's always just like, that was exactly what happened. that was what we got. You know, it's always really, really interesting and amazing how connected it all is. Yeah.
Sorry, that was me. Every once in a while too, we find that, you know, even if, here's what, you know, one of the things that, and this actually goes back to another question or another thing that you just posted before that one. Sometimes they go into a session thinking um, that they know what their intention is. You've already tried to work it out, but you know, a lot of their conscious mind can still be at play then, or a lot of programming, a lot of things their mother might have said, a lot of, you know, things that they think is really the issue. And sometimes they begin then in their session um, where it doesn't quite match. So there maybe, you know, kind of a different intention elbows its way in there. And the really spectacular sessions are when there's enough communication to understand why you were grappling with the intention and you did the best you could, and you began the discovery process that way. But then you find out, well, you know, maybe your ego had an intention, maybe, you know, your inner child had an intention. Maybe this was programming from your mother that overrode what you're saying is an intention. And that's another reason doing this kind of work is this amazing form of self-discovery, right? Because if you can relax enough into it, what comes can often surprise you a little bit, right?
Yeah, a huge amount. Absolutely. Yeah, it's it's absolutely amazing, and like what we were talking about before about being molded and shaped into, you know, the way society does it. I really find this work is like a form of, you know, the ultimate spiritual activism, because it goes against all of the things that we are molded and formed to believe. When you reach these parts of yourself and you gain this understanding, you realize how powerful we actually are. And that's something that society doesn't necessarily want us to know. So
No. Well, that may be one of my favorite things that you have said this morning, the ultimate form of spiritual activism, because it takes another layer of understanding to know that many of the people who actually are in the spiritual community, they've got some intentions too. And they may or may not be forthright about those intentions. And that can be difficult and sometimes painful to discover when some of these other intentions might, you know, seep through in different things that are going on. But the more you understand yourself and the more you give yourself credit and sovereignty, the less that's a real problem, you know, because you won't need that outside validation from authority. But at the same time, I say that, I remember what I just said a few minutes ago. We are a collective, we are a group, and these are things that we're working out together. And this, you know, it can get a little complex, but I still find this work endlessly fascinating. And with everything going on in the outside world in different kinds of focused realms, it becomes more interesting as we go, especially this idea of freedom and being somebody who is right in the center of America. I feel that very, very strongly. You know, our entire nation was built upon this idea of freedom that has often been co-opted and corrupted and taken away in the name of freedom, which is just crazy. But that's okay. We're all in different places. We're working this out. We really are living in an amazing time where there's so much happening, and simply your heartfelt positive intention of living your life adds to the achievement of us all living up to our greatest potential, don't you think?
absolutely. Yeah, the more you can give out the essence of what you truly want the world to be like and how you want things to go, the more that kind of ripples out in concentric circles around you. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like that droplet of what we really intend and what we really want can affect everyone and everything around you. So
Yep. And more, you're not, those of you out there who are just listening, who don't have anything to do with BQH or having a session or whatever, let me tell you, you cannot run away from your true intentions. You can't hide them. You can try, and we used to be much better at hiding them from others, much better. That's falling apart. But it's falling apart within you too. And this is why we focus always on things like meditation and self-discovery and self-acceptance and all of those things. And that, and why having your head in connected to a screen being blared by other people's thoughts, you ought to kind of think about that, because that will affect your energy and begin to, you don't know, it could give a filter for your intentions, right?
yeah. I would say you touched on the meditation thing as well. I say that with doing this work, meditation is completely different now. I always set an intention before I meditate now, and it's just a completely different experience now. I used to always get really stuck. I used to just sit there and argue with myself. Now it's almost like a session. It's like all this stuff coming to me, and it's setting the intention before meditating as well is so important and helpful.
That's beautiful. Another really great tip from you, Nina. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people think meditation, it's very common. People think I'm supposed to sit down and not think about anything. Well, guess what? Good luck with that. I've been meditating for many years, and can people achieve that state? Yeah, they can. It's not common. It's not me. It's not most people I know. The idea is to get just a lot of the noise away from you and let the more pure rhythms, information, connection with other realms come through. And sometimes your intention is I know mine is just, can my intention today just be to let some of this noise go? I need to feel a little more calm and neutral and centered, especially, we go into this very, very busy time of year, where additional fun, but also a lot of additional stress and some old programming comes up.
Yeah.
And so that, there's all kinds of intentions you might have for a meditative session. Really good point to bring up.
Oh, thank you.
Well, listen, I want to get ready to go, because I actually have to go put air in the tire of my horse trailer to make my next adventure happen. And I want to pop out there and do that. Nina, tell everyone where they can find you, either your YouTube or your website, or of course, you can always find either of us on quantumhealers.com. But how about you, Nina? Where can people find you?
Yeah, my website is www.rafaelasoulsessions.com. I'm on YouTube as well, Nina Morocco. Facebook, I'm on Facebook, and I'm around, so you can find me.
Super. Well, and we have lots of other great practitioners, and I want to just give a shout out to Jen Fisher, who's taking care of me over there in the chat room. Jen, brilliant. Thank you so much for your assistance there. I don't even know what you did, but I want to thank you about it anyway. And for those of you who follow this channel and support the work that we all do, I want to tell you how much gratitude I have for you. Thank you so very much. And if you're interested in joining us as a BQH practitioner, you can find out all of that information over at quantumhealers.com/BQH. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of a Tuesday. Nina, thank you for taking time out of your day to chat with me.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's so lovely to talk to you.
Bye-bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you too.